So I've been a big supporter of the young brother Austin Holloman, even since he had those issues when he was down in Brazil, when he was wrongfully accused of posting videos up of some women down there. They have different privacy laws. There was a miscommunication, and there were some people down there, specifically a young woman who has her own political ambitions, I assume, social ambitions, and she made a big stink out of it. So the young brother had to leave Brazil, but even at that point, I was a big supporter of him because I like the idea of what he's doing. You know, having sons who are coming up right behind him. He's in his early to mid 20s, and they're in their mid teens. That's somebody that they can aspire to be. They could take some of the things that he's doing, i.e., traveling the world, right? Because you're looking at a young brother who started off in Brazil, then he went to Europe, Eastern Europe specifically, made his way down to Africa, multiple countries in Africa. Now he is back in South America. He posted a video up with a still photograph on Twitter, also now known as X, of himself in Lima, Peru, at what appears to be a small cafe, and a young Peruvian woman, pretty little lady, was just being sweet to him and told him he looked like her brother, and they had the same eyes. She was very feminine. He posted the video up and the still shot on Lima, Peru, and basically referred to it, said, "You can't buy this type of feminism." And it got 11 million views last time I checked. And this is inside of less than a few days, 11 million views. So what that tells me, as a person who's looking at that, it tells me that his generation and a lot of my generation and the millennials also, because I believe he's an X generation. He might be a late millennial, or I think actually he's a Generation X, Generation Z. But that means they're looking for something different. Anytime you have 11 million views, at that point, people are paying attention to that. That lets you know they have something else on their mind. Now, there was a time when if you posted up a video of yourself with a nice car, coming out of a nice condominium or something like that back in the 90s, or it didn't even have to be a nice car, it could be a shiny car, you know what I'm saying? You would have a lot of people click on that. A lot of people say that we had videos, like music videos. You'd have a lot of people look at that and say, wow, that's where I want to be, man. You would have a lot of people aspiring to attain that, or that they saw that as success. But young people's appetites are changing, and matter of fact, older people's appetites are changing. And when I say appetites, I'm referring to the aspirations for what is and what is not the American dream. When we, as a citizenry, came back from World War II, so many American men had fought in World War II. They came home after that war to end all wars. So much death, so much carnage, so much loss. They wanted to have family. They wanted to regain what they had lost. We were in the midst of the industrial age. The World War had caused America to go from basically an agrarian style country where most people, at least a good percentage of people lived in the farms, to fully manually automated, moving forward, industrial nation. And so that opened opportunity up for people to be able to afford cars and air conditioners and refrigerators and stoves were produced on a massive scale. They outfitted this war making machine to machines that made home appliances, and they did it cheaply and they did it quickly. And so now You got people who are coming home, men who want to get married. It's the late 1940s, early 1950s. They have their suburban homes. They have their vehicle that can get them back and forth from downtown or wherever they worked relatively inexpensively. Now, because see, before that, to buy a vehicle was expensive. But now, because they're being reproduced at these plants in Michigan and some of these other auto plants, they can reproduce them relatively cheaply. You can afford them on a salary. You got the wife at the home. You got the job. She has the appliances. She's no longer washing clothes by hand. I'm saying she can cook inside the house. This whole situation primed America to have an American dream that said, you know, white picket fence, house, two kids or 2.5 kids, a dog and a cat. It was set up like that. That was the American dream. But now, I mean, you can afford to have a family on one salary where dad is working at the local plant, blue collar job, high school education. These young people these days, this so-called American dream of having the family with the house, it requires 2 incomes. And those incomes had better be collectively over and above 6 figures, or you won't be able to exist. Whereas 50, 100 years ago, well, not 100 years ago, 70 years ago in the 1950s, a job paying you $20,000, you were balling. You did it. You made it. A vehicle was $10,000. A house note might have been a couple $100 a month. Bread was a nickel. Man, we could live. You could afford to pay for college. You didn't have to spend an arm and a leg. But that's not the American dream. It's not attainable for most Americans. The American dream is now a privilege to most Americans. So what do? They got other options. The American dream is no longer the white picket fence, a marriage, 2 kids, and some cats. Number one, you can't afford a house. Any house where you would want to live is about $400,000. Folks who are living on the East Coast and the West Coast, you got to darn near be rich just to avoid living in some violent neighborhood with decent schools. So what do you expect these young people to do? They find other options. And a lot of young men, especially Black American men, are realizing that, you know what, I really can't get a fair shake in the United States. Even if I do get rich, even if I do get to the point where I have the American dream or I live in excess, I'll become a millionaire or a billionaire, I always will feel like I'm a target. The police don't care if you're a multimillionaire doctor or lawyer. They still might pull you over. You still might get harassed. They don't even care if you're a billionaire entertainer. You're still a usual suspect. So even the elite, even those of us who are Black American men who've reached the point where we have attained the American dream or surpassed what would typically be the American dream, you better damn near have an exit plan. You've got an exit plan, because the minute you get, you earn a certain amount of status and money, you become a target. You don't believe me? Whether real or made up, whether false allegation, whether they're patently false or there's some element of truth to them, whatever it is, it's going to be blown up. Whether you're P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, whether you're Bill Cosby. They even tried to get the Black billionaire. I forget the brother's name now, but he gave $40 million to the graduate students at Howard, not Howard, at doggone it, I can't, Morehouse down in Atlanta a few years back. I forget the brother's name. But they were trying to get him for like some tax issues. He was looking at jail time. He had to pay a huge fee. You're always a target. So why not pack your things up and do what a Tina Turner did and leave? Do what so many of our other African-American greats have done. Just up and leave. Nina Simone, I think she moved to France some years back. I think those people realize, and now it's beginning to catch on. So when I see the young brother, the young passport bro, the global king, Austin Holloman say, you know what, I'm not even trying to make my money over here. I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to go ahead, pack my things up, and go and just stay away. Can't be mad at him for it. I think that's the new American dream. I mean, it's got to be one of them. Everybody has different dreams, just like everybody has a different perspective. Now, they tell you, stay out of trouble, work hard, graduate from school, let your education lead your way. But what does that do? Let's analyze that. If you can get a decent high school education, you're still going to have to pass these entry examinations. And they try to do away with them for a minute, but now they're bringing them back. So that's a barrier. Some people are not naturally able to go through high school and that doesn't prepare them to take the SAT. So hopefully, if you're lucky, if your parents have money, because your parents having money has a lot more to do with your overall success in the United States than your individual academic prowess. Studies have shown that. It's about how rich you are and how connected your parents are, as opposed to you as an individual. So that whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps is only going to take you so far. Yeah, it works for some people. For the most part, it's the connections and the money you have. So if your parents can't pay $2,000 a month for you to study for the SAT for 4 months, 5 months before it's time to take it to help you get a score, then you're not going to get in the best colleges. You might not even get into college at all. And if you don't have the staying power through high school to get a 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, 4.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale, then you might not qualify to get in college, at least not the best of the best. And then if you don't get in the best of the best colleges, then the recruiters who come to these colleges to pull people out of those colleges to come work for them, they're not looking for you. So you just basically got a degree from some college, and now you out there hunting for a job. I know people with master's degrees working as baristas at coffee shops. People with PhDs who have been unemployed or barely able to make it. So what's the point? And then on top of that, you end up with $70,000, $80,000, some even more, $100,000 in debt, student loans. Because nobody has money to pay that, not the average person. So what do you really get? Even if you do get to high school, okay, high school and then go to college. Okay, let's say you go to graduate school, you become a lawyer. You just add on more debt. You become a doctor, that's just more debt. Now you're $400,000 in. It takes you, years to pay that back. But who wants to do 12 to 15 years of post-high school education? Who really has that type of staying power? If it wasn't for the government financing these people with these loans, it wouldn't happen. To achieve what? To get a house, to get a car, to get a meaningful life. You can just leave. You can have all of that somewhere else. On top of that, you don't have to deal with these horrible family laws that most men find unappealing. You don't have to deal with the fact that even if you do get the house and the car and the white picket fence and the 2 kids and the cat and the dog, the wife is going to take all that. She ups and decides one day that, hey, you aren't fulfilling her emotional needs, and she just, bam. She walks, she files, she spends $125 and files for that divorce and walks away with half your goodies, the house, the kids. The next thing you know, you got Chad or Tyrone sharing Thanksgiving turkey with your children at the house that you paid for and may still be paying for. Kids that you only see once every couple of weekends, so you only become weekend dad. So now on top of having the school debt, you got the mortgage that you're still paying for, child support, alimony, and so you end up living in your car. Some guys even worse. They decide to delete themselves. It's too much pressure. They don't even get a chance to see their kids. What's the point? And so when young men see that, they like, well, why would I risk that when I can just hop on a flight, go somewhere like Lima, Peru, go somewhere like Brazil, Dominican Republic, Uganda, one of those Eastern Europe, and live my life. Look at the Tate brothers. And whether you like them or not, you basically see that there's life outside of the United States for American citizens, and you can do very well for yourself. It's getting to the point that these are not exceptions. The Austin Hollemans, the Andrew Tates of the world, they are not becoming the exception. They're becoming the rule. They are an example of the new American dream. Take your American ingenuity, take your education, take your knowledge, take your sophistication, and go abroad and maximize your potential as an American, as opposed to staying here, getting caught up in this hamster wheel of a rat race. And then when you look up, you're 45, 50, 60 years old, and all you've done your whole life is pay bills, and you really don't have anything of substance to pass down to your kids, because whatever you pass down to the kids, guess what? The IRS comes in and takes a big chunk of it because of inheritance tax. Whatever house you have, if the kids don't want to live there, somebody forecloses on it, or the taxes come and take that, and they barely get anything. So your whole life work is for nothing. You're looking at possibly having a divorce, second marriage, third marriage. That's the American dream. Overweight, stressed out, heart disease, obesity, as opposed to living somewhere in South America, Central America, Eastern Europe, where people live longer, they live stress-free. On top of that, they eat a higher quality of food. The government actually supports them in the social programs that are good for the people. And you might mess around and get a woman who actually is fit, feminine, beautiful, and cooperative, because that's what her culture dictates to you. So yeah, look, I'm just saying, as far as what is and what is not the American dream, I think that is a moving target. I don't think that you can convince the typical Generation Z that he's supposed to work his entire life, risk the chance of a divorce, risk the chance of heart disease and heart attack, and leaving nothing to his children, just to get a house, which is far more than he can afford to pay, and he'll end up paying it off for 30 years, if he's lucky, if it's not taken back. Working a job in a country that is unfriendly, paying Social Security for money that he may not get back. I don't think that they're going to see that as a dream worth having. They'll see it more as a nightmare. So they're looking for other options, and you can't be mad at them. So if you have ambitions of traveling overseas, fellas, whatever your age may be, it's still not too late to live your dream. It's still not too late to say, you know what, this is the word. You're a divorcee, might be time to move. You tried it, didn't work. You're a young man coming up, you're thinking about going to college, you're thinking about maybe, you know what, maybe I'll find a skill set, work remotely, and just be out and see what the world has to offer. It's no worse than what we got going on here. For you all to say, oh, well, that's not a frugal plan. You're telling these young men to just up and leave. What do you want me to tell them? All college seems to do, all going to trade schools and getting these trades seems to do is make them better utilities for these women in this country to use and use up. That seems all. You just want me to tell them to stay here and be a better workhorse. That's what you want me to do. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell them to see what the world has to offer, and this American dream seems not to be what it's cracked up to be. Whatever it was in the 1950s, it's not that way in the 2020s. We live in a totally different world from the 1950s. Back then, women were women, men were men. They had societal roles. There was a societal contract. You exchanged provision, protection for cooperation, and you had a certain degree of control and respect in the house. You don't have that now. All you have is strong feminists out here in the United States who don't appreciate anything until it's gone. And then when bad things happen, they complain how inadequate the men are, the same men who they said they don't need. So why not go somewhere where you appreciate it? Why not go to a Lima, Peru? Why not go to a Belarus? Why not go to a Ghana? Why not go to a Uganda? Why not go to a Dominican Republic, a Brazil, a Colombia? I can't see anything wrong with that. Is that if that's where they're being treated better, that's where their dreams can be fulfilled. That's where their ambitions can be. That's where they can attain their ambitions. I'm not going to tell them not to do that. Young men, you're free. So free. Your world is yours.